And as we continue our tributes for the former Minister Gordhan, former Ministers of Trade and Industry and Competition Ebrahim Patel has described Gordhan as a unifier and a family man. He says he is saddened by Gordhan's passing. Newzroom Afrika's Iman Rappetti has more.
I'm now with former Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Ebrahim Patel, who not only served in the public service, as we all know, 3 terms, 15 years in government as a civil servant, but also a close ally and friend of Gordhan. Ibrahim, it's so lovely to have you with us. I know that you've just come from the House, and I know that you have a deep personal history with the family. It was important for you to be here for them today. Just talk us through a little bit of the history that you shared with PG.
I first met Pravin in 1980, so that makes it 44 years ago. And I was a young activist. We had just had this huge schools boycott in Cape Town, where 100,000 young people had gone on schools boycott and a strike. And at the end of the year, Pravin and a few of his comrades had set up this reflection and training program in KZN. And I went as a young activist, very young, and met this extraordinary strategist and thinker in the middle of the repression of the times, was able lucidly and calmly to chart a way forward, to show us how connecting local struggles and the problems that ordinary South Africans had with rent and with the quality of housing and with bus transport could only really be resolved in a democracy, and how activism was about paying attention to the needs of communities, that it was not the big speeches, it's about improving lives. And over the years I saw Pravin, of course, the role he played in the formation of the United Democratic Front at a time when it was necessary to unite people. He saw how bringing the many different voices together, he was a unifier in that sense. His work then both with the struggle around setting up a communication channel in the country where activists could communicate with the ANC in exile. Later on, his role in the talks that led to the new constitution. He was, among others, the chairperson of the management committee of CODESA, and later he became the chair of the Constitutional Committee of Parliament. And in that way, he helped to take these core ideas of democracy, of a society of transparency, of one that is focused on improving the lives of ordinary people, and he embedded those values. He was part of a team that embedded it in the Constitution.
Ibrahim, those activist roots that you talk about, and it's always so, I think, important at moments like these when you look back not only 5, 10, even 15 years into someone's career. Gordhan was in the public space, starting off as an activist for the last 5 decades. Do you think his activist heart still beat very strongly until the end?
Right until the very end. I came to see him here at his house maybe just over 10, 12 days ago, last Tuesday. And the discussion was not mainly about the aches and the pains and dealing with the symptoms of cancer. It was about forward-looking things. It was wanting to know what we're going to do to try to improve service delivery. We were talking about the experience of governance and how to pass the baton on to the next generation. And he offered that, if I could bring young people together, he'd be keen to tell them some of the stories about the early days. And so there was this forward-looking man who saw that democracy is not the final point, that it's in a sense an important point, that each generation has to defend the democracy, has to fight for integrity in public life. And so right until the very end, he was standing firm in his beliefs. And we were planning a trip for him from Gauteng to Cape Town. He wanted to come and spend some time walking on the beach and chatting about things and addressing activists also in Cape Town. So we saw that, and But he was also something that many people in the pub, he was a very stern guy. He didn't suffer fools gladly. But behind that rough exterior was a very kind, generous and warm man. Someone who inquired about our families, who tried in very concrete ways to reach out, who was enormously attentive to the concerns of colleagues. If someone had a cough, someone wasn't feeling well, he drew on his experience as a pharmacist and his period in the public health system to offer thoughts. But there was this incredible wisdom about him, someone who's seen many things and can bring a fresh and interesting perspective. And there was then the family man, the Pravin, who loved his wife dearly. Vani was everything to him, and whose daughters, his two daughters, were absolutely vital to his life. So he found a way of combining public service with paying attention and caring for them. And so it's a huge loss to them, because at precisely the time when he could now be free to enjoy a walk on the beach with him, history is sometimes cruel, and life doesn't take the course that we think it will take.